of unconscious thinking, reactive thinking, the mind creating unhappy narratives. And then what you then experience is the body is reflecting back to you the unhappy narrative in the form of an unhappy emotion. That's called normal living. That's what, when you watch a movie, or everybody's doing it, that's just normal, not very few people question it. But there is another way, and that's the way of awareness or presence. So this is perhaps one of the most, or the most fundamental spiritual practice, is to be able to separate the narrative from the situation, and if possible, as much as possible, let go of the narrative and just be present with this moment as it is. And of course, the amazing fact is, this moment is all there ever is. Your entire life unfolds in and as this moment. In other words, it's always now. It's never not now. Your entire life is now. Whatever happened in the past happened in the now, and when you remember it now. Whatever will happen in the future will not happen in the future, it will happen in the now, because when the future comes, it's no longer future, it's the now. And when you think about the future, it's a thought. In the present moment, in the now. So life and now, your life and the now are inseparable. And there's an enormous power hiding in the now, which means hiding in you. And a deep sense of aliveness and beingness that goes far beyond what we conventionally call happiness. It's not happiness, it's deeper. But you need to be challenged by life to find it, and this is what's happening for millions collectively now. On a personal level, everybody gets challenged periodically also, but now collectively we're being challenged. We need to wake up out of unconscious thinking, out of complete identification with the thinking mind, which is conditioned by the past. And we need to realize that there is in us, there is in you, another dimension of consciousness that has always been there, but habitually, one could say, overlooked. And that is the dimension of awareness, which is consciousness without thought. You probably have experienced it on many occasions, briefly. For example, when engaged in an activity that requires you to be absolutely present, climbing up a mountain, sometimes perhaps engaged in some kind of sport activity, it requires you to be absolutely present. And then there's an awareness there, but there's no conceptual thinking, there's no time for thinking. And the strange thing is, this awareness is a deeper identity. It's the awareness that you are frees you ultimately from yourself, the limited self, the conditioned self, the mind-made sense of self that for most people, that's all they know. But there's more to you. And there's a deeper identity in you, and that identity is awareness itself, that is consciousness itself. It's the unconditioned consciousness itself, and it's not difficult to experience that, to realize that. But humans don't, they need the challenge to be driven there, and this is why what we are going through right now is potentially very helpful. So the practice is, how would I experience this moment without the addition of thought? And then you come to experience the pure isness of this moment, in which there is no suffering. There is only the isness of this. Because all the unhappiness ultimately was not created by the situation, it was created by the narrative. But you didn't know that, as most humans still don't know that, because they cannot separate the situation from the narrative. And so whenever you feel unhappy, you feel fearful, you feel depressed, you feel resentful, what's happening, self-pity, whatever it may be, use that as a little wake-up call. Say, okay, how does this arise? How is this feeling of unhappiness in whatever form, how does it come about? And then you become more and more aware of what goes on in your thinking mind. The awareness is deeper, a deeper dimension of consciousness. You can say higher or deeper, it doesn't matter. It is a deeper dimension of consciousness than the activity of thought, which is also consciousness. Every thought is a form that consciousness takes. But underneath that, there's a vast realm of consciousness, in the same way that a ripple on the surface of the ocean, let's say that's a thought, but the ripple is only a temporary, fleeting expression of a much deeper reality underneath it. And so you wake up to that deeper identity by realizing the fundamental difference between what is and what the mind has to say about it. And then more and more you're able to experience situations with the power of your presence. You're facing a situation with the power of your presence. It's not your presence, but let's just call it yours. You face it with the power of your presence, which is true intelligence, instead of being reactive and complaining about what it ever is you're experiencing. A lot of that unnecessary mind activity, the narrative, the excess baggage, a lot of that you might have noticed is complaining. You can complain about life, about other people around you, you can complain about the unfairness of it all, how life has treated you, or whatever it is. You can complain about whatever the politicians and all kinds of the infinite things you can complain about. And so a lot of that narrative has an element of complaining to it. And it's not pleasant, but the false sense of self, the ego, the me, it loves complaining, and because then it feels it has a stronger sense of identity, a fictitious identity. It loves to make somebody wrong, another person. You can make a whole situation wrong, and this should not be happening. It should not be happening. It's a travesty. But it is happening. This should not be happening is the narrative. And that what makes you unhappy in most cases, perhaps all cases, is the narrative in the mind, not the situation. The situation is as it is. And as when you realize that, then more and more are you able to face every situation, which is in the present moment, the only place where any situation can arise. You face it as it is in the now, with the power of your presence. And if action is required, you take action. If nothing can be done, you leave it alone. It is as it is, and you are not unhappy about it anymore. You rise above it, so to speak. You're no longer at the mercy of whatever is happening or not happening around you. Yes, it's nice when nice things happen, and it's not so nice when unpleasant things happen, but it doesn't touch you that deeply, because you have access already a deeper dimension within yourself. So you're no longer at the mercy of conditions. Because as long as you're at the mercy of conditions, life is very frustrating, because conditions or situations you find yourself in are never satisfying for very long. And a lot of the time they are unsatisfying. A lot of the time they are challenging. Because life is not here to make you happy. The world isn't here to make you happy. It's here to awaken you, to make you conscious. How does it do that? It does that by challenging you. And it's doing it now. So, and as you are able to let go of the unnecessary narrative that makes you unhappy, then you automatically become present to what is. And then you understand perhaps what Shakespeare meant when he said, "Nothing is either good or bad, but thinking makes it so." Thanks. I will talk to you again soon. In the meantime, please try it out, practice, and see what happens. Thanks.